de la Pedrera, aquest bé cultural del Patrimoni Mundial de la UNESCO. La Fundació Catalunya Cultura us donem la benvinguda a aquest acte, un nou discurs per a un nou mecenatge, i us agraïm la vostra assistència en les vostres apretades agendes. Una matinal de reflexió sobre ciutadania, mecenatge, filantropia i tot el que pugui sortir al damunt d'aquest escenari. Per iniciar aquest acte, donem la paraula, si és tan amable, al senyor Miquel Molins, president de la Fundació Banca Sabadell i patró de la Fundació Catalunya Cultura. Després del seu parlament, pujarà a l'escenari la senyora Bea Burrows, gerent de màrqueting relacional de la galeria Tate de Londres. Endavant, ciutadà mecenes.
Veu menys entusiasta, diguem-ne, com a presentadora, però... Benvinguts a tots i totes i moltes gràcies per, com ha dit ella, ocupar-vos aquest matí en aquesta que vol ser una sessió de reflexió sobre mecenatge, però també una sessió, diguem-ne, de trobada entre el món de la cultura i les empreses, que és el que, de fet, justifica la raó de ser, diguem-ne, de Catalunya Cultura. Per tant, en nom de la Fundació Catalunya Cultura, en nom del seu president Enric Crows i de tots nosaltres, els patrons, us dono la benvinguda i us agraeixo la vostra presència. Amb molt plaer em pertoca a mi començar a presentar aquest acte introduint el que serà aquesta primera reflexió sobre el nou mecenatge, que porta per títol el nou mecenatge, que precedeix això que us deia. El projecte impulsa que en la seva segona edició, avui a partir de la segona hora realitzarà en aquesta sala, i que té per finalitat això, és un mercat, diguem-ne, de trobada entre empreses culturals i empreses culturals, institucions culturals i empreses, per, en definitiva, veure les possibilitats que unes i altres tenen en la seva relació des del punt de vista del patrocini i del mecenatge. Pel que fa a aquest primer acte, jo he dit només unes molt breus paraules abans de donar la paraula a Bea Burrows, el que agraïm molt sincerament la seva presència en aquest acte i haver acceptat la nostra invitació. Jo crec realment que es pot parlar de canvi de paradigma també en l'àmbit del mecenatge, és a dir, parlem de canvis en el paradigma pràcticament tot, però també en el cas i en l'àmbit del mecenatge. I ho penso tant des del punt de vista de les audiències i els projectes, per tant, podem veure des del punt de vista cultural, com també des del punt de vista de les necessitats de les empreses. Front a la cultura institucionalitzada de la que venim, ens trobem ara amb una red d'iniciatives que ens sembla que cada vegada és més extensa i més fragmentada. I des del punt de vista de les empreses i de les marques, em sembla que hi ha una evolució que és més perceptible segurament en les grans empreses, però que penso que finalment aconseguirà, fins i tot a les petites, un canvi que va des de l'empresa anunciant, aquella que contracta publicitat, a l'empresa que es converteix en un medi, en un mitjà, diguem, en aquest sentit, en el que ja no és tan important, en aquest sentit, la contractació de publicitat com el publicitar, diguem, la pròpia marca des de totes les instàncies de l'empresa. I per tant, a l'introduir el que podria ser el mecenatge i el patrocini com una de les components essencials del discurs d'empresa, en tots els seus nivells, en totes les seves parts. Per tant, crec que, insisteixo, la red d'iniciatives és cada vegada més gran, cada vegada més, més diversa, i per tant, d'alguna manera, el mecenatge ha d'ajustar-se a aquesta nova necessitat. I en les empreses, crec que les empreses han d'entendre la importància que té des del punt de vista del propi relat d'empresa, la responsabilitat social, etc., o en les diferents instàncies de l'empresa, la importància que té com a estratègia de marca i també fins i tot des del punt de vista del negoci, diguem-ne, la inversió en cultura. Per altra banda, també crec que aquests dos canvis des del punt de vista de les institucions culturals de les empreses segueix un empoderament, aquesta paraula que diguem és molt lletja però que es diu ara molt sovint, un empoderament, diguem-ne, cada vegada més gran de la societat i, en fi, una major complexitat. Per tant, jo crec que ens hem d'acostumar precisament també, des del punt de vista d'aquest procés de mecenatge, a aquesta enorme complexitat. Les raons per les quals es mou el mecenatge i el patrocini són moltes i molt diverses. Algunes molt conegudes i altres probablement molt noves. Jo no m'hi referiré perquè després tant la conferenciant com després les sessions posteriors tractaran sobre aquest tema i ho faran molt millor que jo. Però en tot cas és igual, des del poder, la imatge, el desig, són moltes les raons per les quals o les que mouen el mecenatge. I segurament n'hi ha de més noves, com era aquest que dic, el de l'estratègia de marca, etc. Però sense entrar realment en aquestes raons, que ja dic que són objecte de les posteriors taules rodones, deixi'm recordar, una cosa que dic recordar perquè és de tots coneguts i per tant no diré res nou, però recordar que la cultura és un factor de progrés i que la cultura i l'educació són indispensables pel benestar de les persones i de les societats. I en el cas concret nostre, i em refereixo al país aquest, i també a Espanya, recordar que no ens podem resignar a convertir-nos en un país pobre i ignorant i que si bé que s'han perdut molts recursos, és evident, hi ha una gran potència. La potència què és? La potència és enorme des del punt de vista cultural, però també ho és la fragilitat. A la cultura sovint li falta rigor i des de Catalunya Cultura sempre hem observat aquesta preocupació i per això hi ha tota la formació en les entitats, en les associacions, en les institucions culturals els hi falta sovint aquest rigor, o estan mancats d'un cert rigor, però sobretot els hi falten mitjans. Hem de creure en la cultura i posar els mitjans que mereix. Altres comunitats petites, com la nostra, han apostat per la cultura i les arts, han adquirit un altíssim nivell. Un nombre molt alt d'iniciatives i activitats esperen a convertir-se en moments excepcionals. Necessiten per això diners i ser sostenibles en el temps. Gràcies novament a tots vosaltres per l'assistència i espero que disfruteu d'aquesta jornada.
Can everyone hear me? Okay. It's a pleasure to be here today. I've come from the Tate, which for those of you that don't know is 4 galleries in the UK, including the Tate Modern, but also Tate Britain, Tate Liverpool and Tate St Ives. And all these galleries are united by their mission to make art enjoyable for everyone. My role at Tate is a relationship marketing manager. So I look specifically at managing and improving the relationship that Tate has with its different audiences, whether this is someone who's walking into the gallery for the first time or if they're a loyal member and supporter. So today I'm just going to specifically be talking about using data to build an audience-focused approach. As relationship marketing manager, I mainly deal with exhibition visitors and members, but I think the reasons why you should put audience as your focus point and the steps which Tate has taken to do this are things that can be applied universally and can definitely be applied to the sponsorship and philanthropy area. So, first of all, I'm going to talk about why you should put your audience as the focus point, and then I'm going to talk about the 4 steps which I've taken with Tate over the last 2 years to actually achieve this. So why should I put audiences at the centre of my organisation? The first point seems rather obvious, but it's one of the most important learnings I think I've had as a marketing manager, and that is that your audience is everything. If you don't know about your audience, then you can't answer the two main questions that you need to in order to be able to persuade them to do something. So you need to know who would be interested in your product or your offer or your cause. And secondly, what can you tell or show them to increase their interest enough in order to buy, donate, or get more involved. In order to answer both of these questions, you need to know enough about your audience. The second reason is that if you create strategies at an audience level, then they're more sustainable. So this is quite a business-focused reason, but it's one of my jobs to make sure that Tate brings in enough revenue to have a sustainable business model. So every successful company has this funnel, this audience, where you start off by raising awareness, then you increase engagement, and then finally you convert. In order to grow profitably, which every company but also our organisation wants to do, you need to balance all of these three factors very carefully. And that's often very hard to do if you're looking at your strategies at a campaign or a channel level. So in order to balance converting people at this end of the funnel, as well as raising awareness at this end of the funnel, you need to look at your strategies at an audience level and actually look at how many people you've got on the conversion side and how many people are in the market that you still need to reach. And the final reason is that if you increase the focus on the brand to audience relationship, then you minimize the risk factors that are related to your product, whether that's exhibitions or causes or campaigns, or your channels, whether that's Facebook, email. So the first thing we've done is we've built a single view of the customer. So this is basically exactly what it says. It sounds simple, but it's very hard to achieve. It's when you bring all of your data up to a customer level, and then you're able to see in one place all of the interactions that a customer has with your brand. In order to do the much more fancy things with data, this really needs to be the position that your data is in. So what we did was we brought all the audience data from our multiple systems into a single data vault. So here's an example of some of our systems. We've got commerce platforms, which is where visitors spend money in our shops. We've got ticketing and membership platforms, which is the platforms that record ticket purchases and membership purchases and renewals. And we've got our marketing automation platform, which is where we send out all our comms from, whether that's emails or paid social. And this marketing automation platform is where we record how people engage with our communications. So our first step is to bring all of these different data sets into one data vault. We aggregated the data at a person level. So we matched email addresses with user accounts and memberships to make sure that what we were looking at was an actual person rather than just sets of data. And each audience member or customer that we have has been given a person ID so that we know they're an individual. Opt status, which is their preference to hear from Tate, purchase history and engagement history are all held at a person ID level, which means that, for example, if someone wants to opt out of communications somewhere else in the organisation, they're not keeping on being emailed, which is very important for legal reasons. But also we can see everything they have sort of done with Tate in terms of purchases, activities and communication engagement. So this is just an example of what one of our unified customer profiles looks like. I've blocked out the name, but you can see that over on the left here we have the number of email responses they've had. Down here it says whether that's more or less than a typical opener. And then here you can see it's got how much they've spent so far with Tate, and based on that, how much they're predicted to spend. The second step which we took after bringing all our data together and having a single view of each customer was to build an RFM segmentation. Most of you are probably aware of this, but an RFM segmentation basically looks at the following audience behaviour. It looks at recency of their engagement with your brand. It looks at the frequency of their engagement, so how regularly they're coming. And it looks at their monetary spend over time. An RFM segmentation is probably one of the single most important things you need in order to have an audience growth strategy. It allows you to create these strategies, it allows you to track your marketing success at an audience level, and it allows you to identify your high-value customer groups and to prioritise those groups. So this is just a very simple illustration. It was much more complicated than this, but we basically fed in all our data from our data vault into our marketing automation platform, which we actually bought this year. It's called Usar, and we're very pleased with it. The reason we chose Usar as our marketing automation platform was because it had an RFM segmentation model built into it, and the segmentation model looks a bit like this. So you can see on the top level, you've got your customer engagement segmentation. So it split our audience into first-time buyers, active customers, defecting customers, and inactive customers. And then along the bottom, you've got your buyer status model. So this splits out your audience in terms of how much they're spending with you. The first thing that we've started using this for is just to talk to the different audience groups slightly differently about different parts of the organisation. So for example, if someone's a first-time buyer, that's far too early to start talking to them about becoming a patron or a member. At this stage, we just want to get them to come back to Tate again. So we're still talking to them about our exhibitions. If they're an active customer, so that means that they've come several times and they've come recently. Then that's the point at which we start talking to them about things like membership and support and patronage. Defecting customer, this is the point at which it's very important to win them back and get them to revisit. So at this point, we normally prioritise talking to them about our sort of most convincing offer, which is normally a blockbuster exhibition like Picasso or Matisse. And it's similar for inactive customers. Down here, with the buyer status, this allows us, like I said before, to identify the people that have a large propensity to spend more with us. Anyone that's above a low spender would be someone that we'd want to talk to more about membership. Or, for example, we have a shop range of limited editions, which is artist editions of artworks. They're normally about £10,000 or more. But it's these people that we'd be kind of talking to about that range. And obviously silver, gold and platinum, again, they're very good prospects for patronage. The first thing that we use it for is targeting. And I just wanted to say as well that a lot of organisations have an RFM segmentation model, but it's actually something that's static and that is created every so often. Where we have really liked Marcus is that the segmentation model is dynamic. So every single purchase comes in daily and the model refreshes with the new data on a daily basis. It's also really accessible. Our marketing automation platform is what marketers use to send out their communications. So the data is actually in the hands of the people that are doing the marketing. It's not off in a room somewhere with a data team, and that's been really important. It's very visual and easy to understand, and it's usable. So this isn't just a chart. You can actually create segments of your audience that you then send communications to. So I could take this low spender group, drill down into it and put in different information like low spenders in London that have been to this exhibition, that are interested in this kind of artwork. I then have a group that I can immediately send an email or a paid Facebook post to, or a piece of direct mail. So it narrows the gap between your insights and your actual marketing output a lot. So for that reason, it's really changed the way we've worked with data. The second thing which we just started using it for, which we're quite excited about, is to track our marketing success at audience level. So as well as knowing sort of our numbers in each group and working to increase those numbers, we also have a recorded repurchase rate for first-time buyers, retention rate for active customers, and a win-back rate for defecting and inactive customers. And we can actually set ourselves targets to improve these rates over time. We also have average spend per group. So again, that's a metric that we can actually look at and say we want our average spend, for example, first-time buyers to be closer to £35, and look at growing that using our marketing communication. So having these audience groups and these metrics against them is going to be really useful for setting ourselves targets as a team. The third step is actually less about data in a data vault, and it's more about a lot of insights work that we've done with our audience agency. And that third step is about creating very rich audience profiles that everyone in the organisation understands and uses. So our brief to our agency was to create an active segmentation. So this was a segmentation specifically for anyone that had visited Tate in the last 3 years. We asked them to focus on the actives because these are the people that we have the richest data on in terms of our data vault. So they're people that are active members and visitor goers. And we wanted this segmentation to be specific to the visual arts. It needed to be in line with the kinds of exhibitions that Tate was putting on. And it needed to be compatible with the visit and purchase behaviour, but not limited to them. We definitely wanted something that was more rich than if they've been to this, they'd like this. Because we could do that ourselves, we wanted them to really add to that. We wanted it to be compatible with our media agency data so that we could use it for much wider marketing as well. And we wanted to allow for Tate's desired brand migration. So this is basically, we wanted it to reflect where we were at the moment, but also look forward to where we could be in the next 3 years. So I can't go into too much detail about the segments because they're top secret, but in summary, they produced 6 segments for us, and across an axis of how deep that person's engagement with art was. And within that, each of the segments kind of has a slightly different art taste, or art that they like. So segment 1 is the sort of people that have the deepest engagement with art and tend to be sort of professionals in the art world or students. Segment 6 is people that have the least engagement. They want a sort of much more social element to their visit, and they're much more conservative in their art tastes. So this is just an example of one of the segments called Tate Experiences, to show you what kind of work our agency did for us. So Tate Experiences, they're quite mainstream in their taste. They aren't too fussy, and they actually want to have fun in the gallery, so it's very important that there's a social aspect there. They tend to opt for the known names, such as Picasso or Matisse, or relevant events. So, for example, if it's an event that's about their community or about a topic that's very relevant to today, then they're much more likely to come. And they gain a lot of reassurance from the Tate brand. They'd be most likely to respond to, what they were doing digitally, how likely they were to become a member, and what kind of secondary spend potential there was. So we ask them very much to look at their whole holistic experience of Tate, not just going into an exhibition. So the most important thing about these audience profiles is that we've been able to use them very widely across the marketing team and organisation, and they've ensured that audiences are always the starting point of everything we do. So for our campaign strategies, they always start with a profile of the audience. I've given an example here from the Modigliani exhibition, which is opening next week. Our primary audience is Tate experiences. So we know they above all want an enjoyable social experience. So we need to convey the sort of emotional experience of walking around that exhibition. And we need kind of artist quotes, content around the nude artworks, which are very essential and popular. They're followers rather than early adopters. So like I said before, reviews are important. They need to be very heavily surfaced in our communication. They're London and home counties. So we need to actually work with partners on a tempting offer so that they can fill their whole day in London. They above all want a sociable experience. So there's these audience that we should be telling about the food events and offerings that Tate has, and also the sort of quirky shop products that they wouldn't find anywhere else. So our campaign strategy formats always follow this pattern, and it's working really well for us. So we start with targeting the audience profiles. From sort of really unpicking those, we then come up with a content wish list, so the kinds of films, articles, sort of partnerships that we want to come up with, and the key messages for the campaign. Then finally, we look at phasing that across our different marketing channels. We also use it for audience journey mapping. For example, we'll take for our recent gift membership campaign for Christmas, we take an audience which is a target audience for that campaign, such as Tate experiences, and we come up with a graph of what they're thinking, saying, feeling and doing when they're deciding what they should buy their loved ones for Christmas. How can we get gift membership to be one of the presents that they choose? We then break down these things, what they're thinking and feeling and doing, into the different stages of their purchasing journey to make sure that we're getting communications across to them at the right point in their journey, and to make sure that we're breaking down their barriers to purchase and convincing them that a gift membership is the right product for them to buy. Finally, because I'm running out of time, we looked at creating interest categories. So these are basically, your RFM segmentation is measuring your audience's engagement with your brand, but actually you need your interest categories to really determine what their motivation is as well. Because otherwise you've just got a business model, you don't actually know enough about them. So what we did was we used our audience profiles to work out what the different interests that our audiences had. So for example, Tate experiences, you could probably tell from my previous slides that they're more interested in modern and contemporary art. They're not as interested in historical art. They've got good levels of art knowledge and name recognition, so it could be interested in smaller shows, but they're also open to seeing more well-known artists. So we basically used these different interests to create a series of tags, which we tag up our exhibitions and events and products with. So, for example, we've got sort of art appeal. So, is it a specialist show or is it a blockbuster? Is it modern, contemporary, or historical? Is it a single artist or an idea or theme? And also, what's the medium? Photography, painting, sculpture. So this is just what we've used for the Tate, but for example, it could be anything. If it's a cause, your different categories would be the different reasons someone's motivated to give, and then you could tag up your different pieces of content and your different events with those categories, and if someone engages with them, it shows that that's where their interests lie. So it's quite a lot to get your head around, so I'm just going to give an example. So if someone visits a Picasso exhibition, what can Amasis, our marketing automation tool, predict about them? So if they visit Picasso exhibition, we've tagged this exhibition up with a lot of things, but some of the things are that it's a blockbuster, that it's modern art, and that the medium is painting. The other exhibitions that we've got are also tagged up with these categories are Matisse, Hockney, Modigliani, Giacometti, and Annie Albert. So what we know from what Amasis does when someone visits the Picasso exhibition is it says, right, they've purchased a ticket to this exhibition, so they've shown an interest in these 3 categories. Therefore, their likelihood to be interested in these exhibitions increases. So from someone visiting Picasso, Amasis would say they're more likely to be interested in these exhibitions that we've got on than anything else that Tate's doing. And that goes across shop products and the exhibitions themselves. So we really use this basically to make sure we keep on talking about the things which originally motivated people to become engaged with Tate and to visit us. And we're really engaging with why they're passionate about art, whether it's because they're a painter, or they've got a love of sculpture, or they're incredibly interested in contemporary art. We don't ever want to lose sight of that. So the Picasso visitor will be given an affinity to each of the categories, and will then be able to target them with other exhibitions and shop ranges. And depending on what they do after that, their affinity changes. So in conclusion, what are the 4 steps and why? Step 1, you need to create a single view of your customer data model. This is so that your data is about people, and it's not about products, channels, or systems. Secondly, you need to create an RFM segmentation. So this is so that you can create audience-focused growth strategies and targets against those. And it also helps you to identify who your most high-value customers are, and you're able to prioritize them. Step 3, creating audience profiles. This is probably one of the most important steps. You need to be able to create rich personas so that everyone across the organisation gets to know the different audience types and they don't just sit within your data or your insights team. These personas should be the starting point for everything that you do, not only campaign strategies in the marketing department, but audience journey mapping for visitor experience or events teams, and even user experience design on the website should come back to these audience profiles. Finally, from the profiles, you can create interest categories. So these work out what exhibitions, events, and shop ranges someone might be interested in. You can extend this out to what kind of causes or projects they'd be likely to give to. And it's we base ours on their art taste and their knowledge, but for you it should be what are their key motivations for getting involved with your brand. And yeah, your interest categories should feed directly from your audience profiles so that your overall company strategy and your data segmentation at a campaign level are completely aligned. Thank you, that's all I've got time for.